Mr. Mayor, we are live.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of council. The date is April the 21st, 2022. It is 7 p.m. and I will now call this meeting to order. I will ask council members for any disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. We'll see that none are noted. Item 3, review of items not listed on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, we do have one item tonight. Staff report BL01 2022. This is the 2021 bylaw annual report from Harry Baranek.
Thank you. Moving on with section 4 announcements. I would like to make one announcement that this week BAM's Voyant Alert System went live. And for those who are interested, please attend our website to find out how you can register to be online. It's fairly simple and it's a good communications tool to let you know what's going on locally within the municipality. Any other announcements? Councillor Chokai.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to announce that the Stratfordville Easter egg hunt was a fantastic success, and the food donations received filled all 3 caring cupboards in Stratfordville, Port Burwell, and Vienna. So thank you to all the residents for their generosity. It's really great to see the food cupboards full. Secondly, I had a form sent to me today, and it's for Matt Miller, the new blue for Ontario. He is having a meet and greet tomorrow night in the Trackless Lounge at the Stratfordville Community Center from 7 till 9 p.m. and refreshments are provided. So anybody who wants to meet him, come on out.
Okay, that's at the Trackless Lounge.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? Councillor Donald.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to say that tomorrow is Earth Day, and we should all get out there and enjoy our planet. Leave no footprint if you can. Pretty hard, but
Thank you for that. Okay, any other announcements? Yes, Thomas, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just 2 announcements of note. A reminder of the candidate information session for the 2022 municipal and school board elections will be held next Wednesday, April the 27th, 7 to 9 p.m. at the East Elgin Community Complex. There is information on our website. Registration is being handled through the Township of Malahide, so if you're looking to attend, please register ahead of time. The second announcement of note is a reminder that nominations for the 2022 municipal and school board election will commence officially May the 2nd. If you're looking to nominate yourself for office for the municipality of Bayham, you must nominate yourself in person and book an appointment ahead of time with myself. Candidates can submit their information and can receive the candidate package. So those are the 2 announcements tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Seeing nothing further, let's move on with this evening's delegation. This evening we have Amy Gagne regarding the food cycler municipal solutions. Amy, hopefully I didn't mess up your surname too bad, and welcome, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my name is Amy Gagne, and I'm going to do a presentation of about 10 minutes. Do I have permission to share my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. Can I get permission to share my screen, please? Oh, thank you very much. Oops. Oh. Great. And can I get confirmation that you just see the presentation now? Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So good evening, Council. Thank you for having me today. My name is Amy Gagne, Municipal Solutions, and I'm here on behalf of Food Cycle Science. I'd like to do a presentation of about 10 minutes, leaving a couple of minutes at the end for some questions. So just a short overview of who we are. Food Cycle Science is a Canadian company that is 100% focused on food waste diversion using our innovative technology called the Food Cycler. So our in-home food recycler is sold direct to consumers through partners like Vitamix and Breville, and to municipalities through Food Cycler's Municipal Solutions program. Our solution helps mainly small, rural, remote communities who are facing waste stream challenges by keeping residential food waste out of the landfills. So as of today, there are over 37 Canadian municipalities across 7 provinces and territories who have signed on to the Food Cycler program. And so to begin, why are we talking about food waste? Well, contrary to popular belief, household waste are actually the largest contributor of food waste. And Canada has identified food waste as a critical issue. Wasted food has consequences socially, environmentally, and economically. For example, in Canada, the equivalent of 40% of food produced annually along the value chain is wasted, and much of this food ends up in landfills. When all the other elements are factored in, including land, water, transportation, energy, etc., the cost of Canada's food waste exceeds $100 billion annually. And food waste alone is very costly for the municipality as well as for the environment. And the food waste sector is responsible for 5% of Ontario's greenhouse gas emissions. Not only that, but with the Canadian winter, it makes food waste very difficult to process and transport due to its hefty volume and liquid mass. And with these factors in mind, it is estimated that over 63% of food waste is actually avoidable. So why aren't we doing anything about it? All of these factors makes it so that food waste is a problem with a strong municipal impact. One of the impacts to municipalities is that since food waste makes up such a large portion of our waste stream, it is a major contributor as to why our landfills tend to fill up so quickly. Additionally, high volumes of waste going through the many waste depots, such as regional landfills, are a major cost to the municipality and ultimately to taxpayers. The environmental impact is that when organic waste decomposes in the landfill, the anaerobic environment causes it to produce methane gas, which is a greenhouse gas that is 21 times more harmful than CO2. Into perspective, taking 1 ton of food waste out of the waste stream is equivalent to taking 1 car off the road for an entire year. And in our communities, putting food waste in the garbage causes some interesting odors, which can attract unwanted visitors like bears, raccoons, and other vermin. Removing food waste from the garbage eliminates these issues and reduces volume. For the municipality, this will save on operations and transfer costs and save space in our region's landfill. And for the residents, less waste and no smell is much more easier and more pleasant to manage, and fewer trips to the waste sites are required. So we asked, haven't we solved this already? There are curbside green bins, which millions of Canadians are accustomed to having, but they are mostly available in big cities with high population investment in infrastructure. However, this solution can be cost prohibitive and operationally challenging in northern and rural areas, and participation rates are always lower than what we'd hope to see. Many people in your community might also backyard compost, and we think it's a great solution, but not everyone has the space, ability, or desire to do this at home. And there is still the concern about odors and animals. And then finally, the easiest solution is to continue to landfill your organic waste, but the long-term impacts are costly and harmful to the environment. So at Food Cycler, we've proposed a different way to deal with our food waste, which really focuses on making waste very easy to deal with and with a great user experience. Essentially, we've built about the size of a bread machine, where you put in your food waste, including meat, poultry, fish, even some bones, some napkins. You push a button, and in a matter of hours, you have reduced your food waste by 90% and are left with a nutrient-rich soil amendment. So the Food Cycler will process on average 1 kilogram of food waste per cycle, and each cycle takes between 4 to 8 hours. It's less than 1 kilowatt hour of power, so just a couple of cents per cycle. And the result is about 100 grams of dry, sterile, and odorless soil amendment that can be used in gardening or landscaping applications, It can be included in your existing composting system, processed with any existing leaf and yard waste systems you may already have in place. And we also encourage municipalities to establish partnerships with their communities, such as creating a drop-off site with a local farm or community garden. From an environmental standpoint, the food cycler is comparable to backyard and central composting. It represents an approximate reduction of greenhouse gas impact by about 95% in comparison to sending food waste to a landfill. And in terms of economic impact, our solution offers a return on investment by significantly reducing your waste management costs. With traditional waste services, we generate waste, put it into a bin or a receptacle. A hauling truck comes to pick it up, perhaps go through a transfer station to ultimately be buried in a landfill. But with the food cycler, you have a resident generating their waste and processing their waste right at home without the need to run trucks or build new facilities. In the short term, you have less disposal and lower operating costs. And in the long term, you get many more years out of your existing landfills and your community without implementing any costly curbside programs. So one thing that we've learned from working with municipalities is that residents are very interested in being part of the solution. They want to try new things and they want options. And with the food cycler, you get to bring something innovative and tangible to your residents, and they don't need to live in a big city to be able to divert their organics. We believe food waste diversion should be available to all Canadians all year round, no matter where you live. And on top of the social pressures, the impact of the regulations that are coming to us here in Ontario, there are a number of diversion targets that I'm sure you are all aware of coming into effect in the next couple of years. So it's very important to have a plan in place that meets these goals. And with the food cycler, we're reducing food waste at the source. And since food waste accounts for such a large portion of our household waste, it's the single most impactful strategy to achieving these diversion targets. As I mentioned earlier, we are working with several municipalities across Canada, and to date, we have completed pilots in over 1,200 households across 14 municipalities, and the results are overwhelmingly positive. We have very high levels of participation. We achieved a significant amount of net new diversion, and over 90% of people said they would recommend the solution. In the city of Nelson, BC, their council voted to put a food cycler in every home in their city of 10,000 people following the success of their pilots. The pilot program is so residents will purchase a food cycler at a subsidized rate from their municipality. They use the unit, track the number of cycles per week, and at the end, the residents gets to, of course, keep the food cycler. And we ask them to complete a brief survey so we can evaluate waste diversion and the program's overall success. The results of the survey are then put into a final report for council and committee that can be used to support future municipal waste management decisions or to support an application for funding to expand the program. The Green Municipal Fund through FCM is a potential source of funding, and the good news is that Food Cycler Solution meets Green Municipal Funding's criteria and high performance environmental targets. So an overview of how the pilot programs are laid out, including our pilot size recommendation. For a municipality of your size, we would recommend a pilot of 100 households. The funded pilots work based on a subsidy model where Food Cycle Science provides a discount. We then ask the municipality to subsidize the cost by $125 per unit plus shipping. So the residents can only end up paying $175 for a $500 machine. We also have other options such as bundle package with extra filters, as well as affordable add-on options available, which is a program we offer X amount of food cyclers at a lower rate that is intended for low-income households, community or nonprofit organization, or anyone who can genuinely benefit from an affordable option. We would welcome the municipality of Bayham to be part of this initiative, and Food Cycle Science would be honored to be part of the already implemented waste diversion programs that you have, as we believe your community is a great fit for the benefits of this program. Tonight, we kindly ask you to receive our presentation, and if there is interest in the pilot program, to refer it to staff for a report and a recommendation. So once again, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to present to you this evening, and I am prepared to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, Amy. That was a well done presentation and very interesting. Does anyone have any questions for the delegation? Councillor Donald.
Get myself unmuted. Thank you, Your Worship. Hi, Amy. A great presentation. I have a couple of questions. What is the life expectancy of your unit? of the food cycler?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. The food cycler's lifespan is estimated to be around 6 to 7 years when operated and following all instructions. So we have been in production since 2014, and the vast majority of them are still functioning. We also offer a 1-year standard manufacturer warranty starting the date of the delivery of the food cycler to all of our municipal partners.
And a follow-up question, how often, excuse me, how often do you have to change the filters on the food cycler?
So the carbon filters last anywhere from 3 to 6 months with regular use. The filter light sensor on the food cycler is simply a guide of when your filters are required is odor. So we have certain clients who uses the food cycler in the garage or the basement. And if odor is not something that is really troubling for you, then you don't need to change your filters for over a year. It really depends on the individual. And the municipal retail price is at $22.12. And we do also sell them at Vitamix.com, which is for $29.95.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Chilcott.
Thank you. Amy, can you tell me 300 to 400 uses per year, is that the average? So it would be one tub per day or one run per day?
I'm sorry, 3 to 4.
Sorry, I'm trying to find out what the average run would be. Based on 1 kilogram of food per day, I'm thinking it would be about 1 run every day, like you'd have to use it every day.
So based on our survey results, we see that most households run the food cycler 4 to 5 times a week, and which also depends on the size of the household. If you have a big family, then you obviously probably need to run the cycles a little bit more. I personally live by myself, and 4 to 5 times a week is essentially correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Counselor Donald.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I have one more question. I see here. I'm just wondering, you said that the end result can be put right on the ground. It can be used right away as an amendment to the soil.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank
So it's a nutrient-rich soil amendment, and we had a third-party lab verification. It's pathogen-free. There's no bacteria, no weed-borne pathogen, any of that thing. So you can simply include it into your compost. We have people donate it to a local farm to help catalyze their composting systems. You can gift it to a friend. You can bin it and storage it during the winter, and then use it during the spring as well, because it is bacteria and pathogen-free.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, again, thank you very much, Amy, for your presentation and for the answers to the questions. I have a motion before us that reads that the presentation from Amy Gagne regarding food cycler municipal solutions be received for information. Anyone willing to move and second that? Deputy Mayor Weiser, Councillor Froese will second. All in favor?
Counselor Donald,
Yes,
Counselor Froese,
Yes.
Counselor Chilcott,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Weisler,
yes,
and Mayor Ketchabah.
Yes.
Carried.
Okay. Moving on with section 6 of the agenda. We have the minutes of the previous meetings, which include the regular council meeting held April the 4th, 2022, and the statutory planning meeting held April the 4th, 2022. Everyone has had opportunity to peruse those minutes. If there are no errors or omissions, I would entertain a motion for the following: that the minutes of the council meeting and planning meeting held April the 4th, 2022 be adopted. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Donald and Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor?
Counselor Donald,
yes,
Counselor Froese,
Yes.
Counselor Chilcott,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Weisler,
yes,
Mayor Ketchabah.
Yes.
Carried.
Okay. Skipping down to section 10, physical services, emergency services, we have report BL 0122 by Harry Barnick, Fire Chief, Bylaw Enforcement Officer regarding the 2021 Annual Bylaw Summary Report. Chief, welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council, for taking this report. Again, this is the report for the year of 2021 for bylaw. During 2021, we were, as we all know, we were well into COVID season still. The beginning of the year was very restrictive, but as the year went by, it became less restrictive. At the beginning of the year, at least near the end of the year of 2020, the provincial government allowed for special constables to enforce their Reopening of Ontario Act, but in the beginning of 2021, they then extended that to include all provincial officers, and that includes myself. We only had a few complaints regarding the Reopening of Ontario Act, and most of those, in fact, all of them were dealt with by education. In 2021, as in the report, there were 143 complaints, which of 118 or 83% were solved, and there were still 17 still outstanding as of now. However, I can assure you that the vast majority of these have all been actioned. The problem is at times not all the action goes according to plan, and once we have to go into the next stages, it definitely delays the process. Further, we must remember that the bylaw is not just our bylaw department. It also includes the OPP from Elgin County, and also site assistance we had from the Municipal Enforcement Unit, which we have a current contract with. This report does not include any statistics regarding the Ontario Provincial Police and their bylaw enforcement. As I said, we had 143 complaints, and that was compared to 112 the year before. So that is roughly a 27% increase. And there was no substantial staff increase to meet that increase. It has stayed the same, and it is continuing to be challenging for the department to meet all its needs that it continues on with. Now, again, I must point out that not all these complaints, that doesn't mean we had 143 separate locations. Some of these complaints can be multiple and or have multiple complainants for the same resident involved. The biggest increases from the year before to last year was regarding the utilization and zoning complaints regarding the utilization as trailers as residences without seeking variations from our zoning act, or sorry, our zoning bylaw. We had a large increase with regards to prohibited animals, and these mainly dealt with the ownership of chickens in our villages, towns, and hamlets, and a large increase, a fairly large increase in noise complaints regarding barking dogs. In the report, you will notice that the year before we had a very large amount of property standards complaints. However, it was greatly reduced, and that's because I broke out property standards from lot maintenance. The biggest difference between the two is property standards deals with the buildings, the surrounding structures for the buildings, and supporting that structure. The lot maintenance mainly deals with the property around the buildings, and that's truly where the vast majority of our long-term complaints are sitting with regards to the lot maintenance. Again, with regards to the solutions, 42% have all been done through correspondence education. That is, in my honest opinion, that is important. As we know, we have a three-way. I usually try to do a three-step process to complaints. They start off with correspondence and education, a letter indicating that there is an infraction of the bylaw, and this is the copy of the bylaw or the section that you're violating. The second one is a notice of violation. especially with property standards and or lot maintenance. And with regards to that, I can therefore continue that on with a notice of violation, also give an order and giving a date and time for it to be made or corrected. Uh, Ticket enforcement has been is not the is the last step, and although it shows 8 tickets, I can assure you that that does not mean that I have issued or 8 tickets or summonses. Some of these have been involved with multiple complaints, and one summons can take care of multiple complaints. Um, And what is really good to see is that although a small number, is that we still have a small number, but it was resolved without any municipality involvement the municipality getting involved in the complaint. The complainant and the other party were able to deal with the matters themselves. And that's reassuring to see. Again, as reported the year before, it's important to understand that bylaws are truly the most personal laws, I believe, in our culture. They are the ones that are actually restricted to how you live, your residence, how you keep your residence, what type of activities you can and can't do. And it becomes very personal. And at times when enforcing some of the bylaws, they will in fact be a little more offensive when trying to be working with, and that truly is a challenge. And again, a lot of these bylaw complaints have stemmings from neighbor disputes that have been ongoing for some period of time, and they have now turned to the municipality to solve the differences. I can also further tell you that the bylaw department does not work alone. It works with the public works, building, planning, and other agencies such as the OPP, Southwest Public Health Unit, and also MEU to assist in the enforcement and the education of the public with regards to the bylaw system. Also, in the last point, I'm being totally candid and honest that we are the only municipality in Elgin County where the fire chief, where the role includes fire chief, community and emergency management coordinator, bylaw enforcement, and livestock evaluator, which we actually did enforce this year, or dealt or helped assisted with in this year, and under the same portfolio. No other municipality in our county or in our area has the fire chief doing so many roles. And as I stated in my year end for the fire department, the role of the fire chief and the requirements that are requiring on the fire departments and the fire chief, especially when it comes to the mandatory education that has passed. It was passed on April the 8th. And we have to really become involved in ensuring that our firefighters are properly certified, either by NFPA standard or by the Ontario standard, that we can get in order to protect the municipality with regards to matters such under the Occupational Health and Safety Act and the Ministry of Labor. That is my report for you.
Thank you, Chief. Does anyone have any questions for Chief Bernick? Councillor Donald.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Harry, I have one question. I noticed you said that there were trailers that had been utilized more. Would that have been maybe to do with isolating a person in the home, to do with the pandemic?
Absolutely not. Any of the investigations I had nothing to do with trailers, people, and pandemics. What we're having is people coming from different areas. Some are setting up trailers as their residence before obtaining any type of permit to build a structure, which is against the zoning bylaw. We've had a few of those. We've had a few areas where a business has set up one or two trailers on their premise, which again is inappropriate because when commercial site, the only one that allowed it are a trailer park under the zoning bylaw. So that type of information or that type of situation is not enforceable of the situation with COVID. And then we've had one or two that have just put a trailer in their lot and are just living out it and just ignoring the zoning bylaw altogether.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Anyone else? Councillor Chilcott.
Thank you. Harry, I just wanted to say you're doing a great job, and it's one of those jobs where you're pulled in so many directions. In one area of it, fire, you're praised as a hero, you help everybody, and then turn around the next day, you're bylaw, and you're the most disliked person around. So yeah, it's a tough job to be in. Thank you for your work.
I appreciate that, Counselor. It was funny. I did go to one place and I was talking about their animals, and the father turned around to the child and said, "Oh, that's just the bylaw guy." A little disheartening, but that's okay. That's I was trying to enforce. Your Worship, if I could add one further point to my report, I believe it's in there, and that's regarding our municipal law enforcement policy. It is a very good policy. As I said, we've had people challenge the policy. I've actually had one complaint where both the complainant and the person being complained about both went to the ombudsman to complain about how the bylaw was being enforced or investigated. And in both sides of the complaint, the ombudsman had stated that our municipality's bylaw enforcement policy is far, he believed, was one of the best he's seen and far superior to what he would have ever seen for our municipality. The policy protects the complainant against having to identify them, and it allows a proper investigation without the interference of anybody, including council themselves.
Thank you for that, Chief. Any other questions? Councillor Froese.
Maybe more of a comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To you, Harry, thank you very much for the report. It was done very well. And I do gotta admit, you had to send me an email this year. It was not pertaining to my yard, but it's something I might have said. Good job. So anyway, I'm wondering about keeping statistics, and I'll approach it from a direction of who are the complainants if we have such a big rise in 1 year, you know, and what is the reason? Was it COVID? Great. Or is it, and I welcome all the new people to Bayham. We are a great place to live, and I love Bayham because we are rural, and I like to keep Bayham rural. And if the majority of the complainants is from new residents, and I could say within the last 5 years, and it's simply a thing of keeping statistics and finding out why the big influx of complaints, right? And so, and if maybe down the road we need to, if we could keep those kind of statistics, address issues such as that.
That is not currently, Your Worship, through Your Worship, that is not
Thomas,
currently, sorry.
I'm going to let Thomas interject here first. Thank you, Harry.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to council. So we keep general statistics on complaints, types of complaints, and how we respond. But we don't keep statistics on who, how long they've been in the municipality for, et cetera, because that could be seen as identifying specific groups or individuals, and that would run afoul of our policy. It would also run afoul of MFIPA. The only way that we can disclose any information regarding a bylaw would be, you know, for instance, whether if the complainant inquires about whether their complaint has been received, we can let them know that it has, but we can't provide any sort of information on their on their individual complaint. We can also provide aggregated statistics. But that's all we can do without getting too granular. The question about generally where increases of complaints come from, and I've heard this from a few other municipalities over the last 2 years, that it really does have to do with residents being home more often and being able to, I guess, passively observe, their neighborhood and their neighbors. And what that's given rise to, this kind of passive surveillance, is an increase in complaints. So whether or not this continues out of COVID is kind of waits to be seen, but it's a phenomenon that has been present not only in Bayham, but in other communities in the area and probably across the province over the last 2 years because of those COVID restrictions that have been in place.
Thank you for those comments, Thomas. Actually, it leads itself as a nice segue into perhaps flipping it over and saying, Harry or Thomas, how do we stack up with our neighbors? Is our closure rate similar? Are we experiencing the same across the region? Are we any different than anyone else? Like, is that why is that why we've got some complaints going on out there about our bylaw system?
I can handle a little bit of that, Mr. Mayor. So
Thank you.
Some of the other municipalities have definitely seen an increase in the number of complaints. I know Malahide, as their bylaw staff are also at capacity. I can't speak to Elmer, but I know that Central Elgin has recently onboarded a manager of law enforcement. So they're fleshing out their bylaw department in light of increases in their jurisdiction. So this isn't something that is specific to Bayham. It is more endemic across the area. Whether or not that continues again, we can't say, but it is something that it's not just here. Speaking to closure rates, not sure what other municipalities are seeing with respect to closure rates, but given the number of ongoing complex files that we have that are in various stages of enforcement, which could be, months, it could be, a year or 2 or 3 before bylaw complaints are handled, particularly if they leave the municipal stage and end up in litigation. It's an 83% closure rate, given no increase in resources for the bylaw department year over year, is very good. So I do commend Mr. Baranek for the work that he's done to ensure that bylaw does have a presence in our community. He's been doing a lot with the resources that he has, and we're really interested to see what comes out of this joint development shared services process we're going through with Malahide right now. We had the kickoff meeting yesterday. We're hoping to have something in front of council late May, early June for some preliminary results, and we'll see what comes from that. But it's not something specific to Bayham. It's ongoing in the area, and the closure rate, despite this, is quite good.
Thank you for those comments. Thomas, I wonder if it might be prudent at this point to have maybe a high-level discussion, or at least an explanation to council of the various, I guess you could say, methodologies towards bylaw enforcement. For example, we are you could call it a passive or complaint basis system versus a more proactive or active system. And what are the pitfalls and what are the advantages, disadvantages from a high level of either?
Sure. Mr. Mayor to Council. So oftentimes there are 2 methods a municipality might take to respond to bylaw complaints. One would be passive or reactive, which is complaint-based. The other one is active, so ongoing patrol and enforcement. Active would require, at least from Bayham's perspective, more staff and more capital. For example, if we were to have, say, 2 bylaw enforcement officers instead of the half we have, that's an extra vehicle. That's an extra, probably, quick math, I would say first year would be about 3.4% on the operating levy, and you're looking at maybe carrying 2.4, 2.5 ongoing if you have two officers. One of the pitfalls of that, aside from the obvious tax impact, would be that if an active policy is in place and for whatever reason a bylaw officer misses an infraction and somebody is damaged or injured, it may cause a liability issue, which is why a lot of municipalities stick to complaint-based and make it a reactive process. It puts the onus on a resident or complainant to bring the infraction to the municipality's attention rather than putting the onus on the municipality to actively enforce. Active enforcement is not common, but it's usually in larger cities that have larger budgets and are able to flex their budgets a little bit better than we can do with our allocation. So that's often why you'll see rural municipalities do it from a reactive perspective, and why BAM does or handles bylaw complaints the way that we do. And I think council will agree that based upon the report before council that even though we have had increases over the last year, the bylaw department has still done a very good job in not only responding to, but closing off those files.
Thank you for that. And I have one more up. I'm going to beat you to it, Deputy Mayor. One more question for either you, Thomas, Harry, or perhaps even Treasurer James. Bylaw enforcement, in my understanding, is not a revenue generator. In fact, this is a cost to the municipality. Does anyone care to have a comment on that from a professional perspective?
Your worship, if I may interject.
Please.
It definitely is not a revenue generating department. In fact, it is quite a cost to the municipality, especially when we get into the enforcement itself and going in front of the courts. We have lawyers involved that we have to obtain any fines, and fines are very limited in the vast majority. It does not cover the cost with regards to even taking them to court. But again, that is a duty that we do if we're forced there. If anybody can add anything, I'd be grateful.
Thank you for that, Harry. I noticed that unfortunately, it looks like Lauren's link seems to have dropped out. Oh, there he is. Do you have anything to? We'll let him connect. Lauren, you've missed part of Harry's explanation there. Do you have anything to add regarding the financing side of bylaw enforcement?
We do not budget for any revenue collection. The more challenging the files, the more expensive the claims, the legal, the proceedings. The only time a bylaw can be in a revenue form is if it's a property standards and we can levy against the property, which we have done for grass cutting and other compliance issues in the past. Where the misconception with the public is they think bylaw is the same as the provincial offenses court or the POA. The POA, we do receive money, but not near the stigma or check sizes as we used to. But again, they're two separate things. So I think the public misconstrues the provincial offenses revenue versus the local bylaw enforcement. And I'll leave that as a financial, but we do not budget for revenue. And if we can collect anything, it's usually based on property standards stuff, vis-a-vis grass cutting, building compliance, and other stuff.
All right, thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Weiser, you had your hand up for a question.
Yes, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor, and just thank you very much, Harry, for the very thorough report. It was sobering at times, but it was very well done. So thank you for that. Just a quick question, perhaps to Thomas. He spoke quickly on how we respond in Bayham, and I wonder if that's pretty typical for a response for a municipality of our size. Is our reactive response pretty common?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor, yes, it is. I've worked for a variety of other lower tier municipalities, and all of them have had reactive complaint-based policies. It is common in rural Ontario for sure, because the tax levy impact of bringing on an additional bylaw support would be substantially more than if it was considered in a larger city. So, rural municipalities often have far more constrained budgets, irrespective of all the legislated services we have to provide. So it's very important to allocate resources accordingly, and as such, bylaw is often reactive.
Thank you very much. Just one more question, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Please. Thank
you very much. Harry, I'm curious as to the process. As someone, as a resident who's never actually complained on a bylaw infraction, when you submit a form, is it similar to the service request form that's found on the website? When you make that complaint, is there any evidence sent to the person making the complaint that it's been received or that any action has been taken?
If the complainant follows the process under the forms on our website, what will happen is when they launch in the bottom part, they put their email in and they were automatically sent a receipt saying that the bylaw complaint has been received by the municipality.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. One more question then, Harry, as a supplementary. What kind of timeline do you have, Harry, to take a look at that complaint?
Through your worship, to be totally honest, there is no timeline matched per se. I try to look at them as regularly as I can, weekly at least. I can tell you that reviewing the stats that once the summer rolls around, I'll be receiving somewhere between 5 and 10 bylaw complaints a weekend.
I'm sure I speak on behalf of all of council when we say thank you very much for your efforts, Harry. The report was very well done. I thank you very much.
Thank you, council.
All right, with nothing further then, again, well done report, Harry. Thank you. We have a motion that reads that report BL 0122 regarding the 2021 annual bylaw summary report be received for information. Do I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Donald will move. Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor?
Councillor Donald,
Yes.
Councillor Froese,
Yes.
Councillor Chilcott,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Weisler,
Yes.
Mayor Ketchabah.
Yes.
Carried.
Moving on with section 11, development services, sustainability and conservation. And to receive for information, we have item A, notice of decision regarding the minor variance application A2321. Notice of decision regarding minor variance application A0222. Notice of passing of zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 0622. Notice of public meeting regarding zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 1122. And E, notice of public meeting regarding zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 1222. Does anyone have any questions or concerns regarding the items to be received for information? If not, then I would entertain a mover and a seconder for the following, that items 11.1.1A through E be received for information. Deputy Mayor Weiser will move. Councillor Froese will second. All in favor?
Councillor Donald,
Yes.
Councillor Froese,
Yes.
Councillor Chilcott,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Weisler,
Yes.
Mayor Ketchabah.
Yes.
Carried.
Moving on to section 11.2, reports to council. We have report DS 1822 by Steve Adams, Manager of Public Works, Drainage Superintendent, regarding the Hampton Drain improvements. Good evening, Steve.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. The report before you, DS 0722, is a report to council to determine if council wishes to proceed with notices under section 4 on the Drainage Act to direct the clerk to send copies of the report and notice of a public meeting and set time of the council meeting, which report could be considered. If council remembers, back in May 20th, 2020, a request from the president of Bonneville Farmland came in to investigate and repair a damaged portion of the Hampton Drain that runs through their farmlands. It runs 900 meters east of Mitchell, just north of Jackson line, and 400 meters west of Mitchell, crossing and ending just south of Jackson line. Council, the meeting in June 4th, 2020, council appointed Spreets to prepare a report and investigation on this drain that was built in 1969. It was found to be in disrepair. Large portions of it were missing. There's actually in 78, there was an investigation done on the aging tile, and a lot of the tiles were misaligned shortly after they were installed, I guess. So there's a lot of problems with it. The report was received to the clerk on the 25th of 2022. If council wishes to proceed with the meeting to consider the report and the public meeting, I'd just like to amend, the recommendation was for May 5th. I'd just like to accommodate our engineer to attend. And so we'd like to move that to the May 19th meeting for 8 p.m. If Thomas wants to step in to just clarify that, but I'm here with any questions.
I believe you're muted, Mr. Mayor.
I know. Now,
Just to clarify, yes, we did reach out to John Spreet, and he did advise that his availability for the 5th was quite limited. So we'd be looking for the motion actually to note that the report was officially filed with the clerk on March 28th, just to confirm that date, and set the public meeting date for May 19th. It would be at 8 p.m. as we do already have a number of public meetings under the Planning Act for that same meeting.
thank you for the clarification. Does any member of council have any questions? Deputy Mayor Weisler.
Yes, thank you through you, Mr. Mayor, to Steve. Seeing as that we are 2 years post the original request, I'm curious as to whether the appetite is still there for the homeowners to continue with this.
Yes, through your worship, I did talk to, there's actually 5 adjacent owners. I guess the next meeting will be the meeting to consider, and we can listen to their opinions. The actual landowner that originally sent this letter into the past drainage superintendent is definitely still interested and is actually really pushing to get this done as soon as possible, if possible.
Any further questions? All right, seeing none, we have a motion that reads that report DS 1822 regarding the Hampton drain improvements be received for information, and that the council of the municipality of Bayham acknowledges the receipt of report number 220242 dated March the 15th, 2022 for the Hampton drain improvements as prepared by Spreet Associates and filed with the clerk on March the 28th, 2022. That council set a date for the public meeting to be held on May the 19th, 2022 at 8 p.m. to consider a report, and that staff be directed to mail a notice of public meeting and report to all persons assessed to this drainage works and in accordance with the Drainage Act. Do I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Donald will move. Deputy Mayor Weisler will second. All in favor?
Counselor Donald,
Yes.
Counselor Froese,
Yes.
Counselor Chilcott,
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that the date on this is going to be updated to the 28th
No. Which date are we referred to?
for number 2.
That's May the 19th.
No, where the clerk filed on March 25th, it says.
Yes.
Yes.
But we said 28th.
No, it was received on the 15th and filed on the 28th. Is that clarified correctly, Thomas?
The March 15th date is the date that the engineer completed the report. The date of filing is when the clerk receives it and files it in our document repository, and that was March the 28th. And Mr. Mayor, I do believe you read it correctly.
Yeah.
Just to
Okay.
clarify, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, the report indicated it was filed on March 25th, and I believe that's what Councillor Chilcott just wants to clarify, that was switched to the 28th, if that's correct.
Yes.
Thanks,
Yes.
Steve. That's what I was getting at. And yes,
Mhm.
Deputy Mayor Weisler,
Yes,
Mayor Ketchabah.
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Item B, report DS 1922 by Margaret Underhill, Deputy Clerk, Planning Coordinator, regarding the development agreement, Green Line Road construction. Good evening, Margaret.
Good evening, Your Worship, and through you to council. The report before you is to deal with the development agreement for construction of Green Line. The property owners, Andrew and Kimberly Hutink, wish to enter into this agreement with the municipality and taking full responsibility for the construction of approximately 50 meters of Green Line road allowance. Council will recall we did go through a minor variance process with the Hutinks to allow for a reduced frontage of 50 meters so that they can develop their property at the very east end of Green Line. So the agreement is before you, attached to the report with bylaw for presentation for enactment. And I'll leave it with you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions for staff? Councillor Donald.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Marg. I was reading here where we register the bylaw to the title of the lands. That's normal, right?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Donald, yes, that is the process that will happen. The construction will happen. It has to be inspected and approved, and then we have to register a bylaw that it becomes part of the public highway system.
That's what I wanted. Thanks, Marg.
You're welcome.
Anything further? All right. Motion reads that report DS 1922 regarding the Hutink development agreement be received and that bylaw number 2022-029 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a development agreement between Andrew and Kimberly Hutink and the municipality of Bayham for Green Line Road construction be presented for enactment. Do I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Chilcott will move. Councillor Donald will second. All in favor?
Councillor Donald,
Yes.
Councillor Froese,
Yes.
Councillor Chilcott,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Weisler,
Yes.
Mayor Ketchabah.
Yes.
Carried.
Item C, report DS 2022 by Marg Underhill, Deputy Clerk Planning Coordinator, regarding the rezoning application ZBA 0822 Clausen. Marg.
Thank you, Your Worship. And again, through you to council, the report before you is for consideration of a rezoning bylaw for the Clausens, John and Jennifer, also representing Clausen Automotive Parts in Stratfordville. They are planning to put an addition onto the commercial business. And in so doing, rezoning has to acknowledge some deficiencies on some existing setbacks for the building that's there already. Because they are adding on to it, we do have to acknowledge there are some zoning sections that have to be addressed through this bylaw. So the report is before you. We did have a public meeting on Thursday, April 7th. There were no written submissions or verbal presentations there. Also to note, council will be considering a site plan agreement in the near future. We are working on finalizing that. I will leave it at that, Your Worship. The report's before you.
Thank you for the report. Any questions for Marg? Okay, thank you for that. Motion reads that report DS 2022 regarding the Clausen rezoning application ZBA 0822 be received for information, and that pursuant to Planning Act Regulations Bill 73 Smart Growth for Our Communities Act 2015, it be pointed out that at the public participation meeting held April the 7th, 2022, associated with this application, there were no written submissions and no oral presentations received during this or regarding this matter, and that all considerations were taken into account in council's decision passing this resolution, and that zoning bylaw number Z 456 2003 as amended be further amended by changing the zoning on a property owned by John and Jennifer Clausen located at 9253 Plank Road from Central Business District Village Residential CR/R1 zone to site-specific central business district and village residential, C1-4/R1 zone to permit the expansion of the commercial business. And that zoning bylaw Z 739/2022 be presented to council for enactment. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Froese will move. Deputy Mayor Weisler will second. All in favor?
Counselor Donald,
Yes.
Counselor Froese,
Yes.
Counselor Chilcott,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Weisler,
yes,
Mayor Ketchabah.
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Moving onward to section 12, finance and administration, 12.1 correspondence, and 12.1.1 to receive for information. We have one item this evening. It's correspondence for the municipality of Grey Highlands regarding HST rebate on new homes in Ontario. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding this correspondence? Okay, then the motion would be that item 12.1.1A be received for information. And we need a mover and seconder for that, please. Counselor Donald, Deputy Mayor Weisler will second. All in favor?
Counselor Donald,
Yes.
Counselor Froese,
Yes.
Counselor Chilcott,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Weisler,
yes,
Mayor Ketchabah.
Yes,
Carried.
thank you. Moving down to section 12.1.2, requiring action. We have correspondence from the Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary regarding a funding request. Does someone on staff want to take us through this one?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can provide an overview.
Thank you.
This correspondence was received, as noted, April 2nd from the Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary. They operate a vessel primarily out of Port Bruce that operates between Port Stanley and Port Dover. They are part of the Joint Rescue Coordination Center, and a number of their calls in 2021 were for boaters or operators near Port Burwell. They note in their correspondence that the approach to the Port Burwell Inlet is challenging, and they are requesting the council consider and hopefully support an allocation of $2,000, which includes HST and anchoring materials, which would allow for 4 navigational aids to be located near the inlet to provide some sort of additional demarcation of the shallows in that particular area. So the item is before council for action. Council has the choice to approve as noted for the $2,000, to respectfully decline, or as noted in the correspondence as well, to request a delegation from the Canadian Coast Guard Auxiliary to provide more information to council. So with that, I will leave it with council. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas, for that. Does anyone have any questions for staff or any discussion? Deputy Mayor Weisler.
thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. Perhaps to Lauren, do we not have a reserve for harbor expenses?
No.
Through the mayor to the deputy mayor, we do not have a reserve for harbor expenses. We have a reserve for dredging,
Mhm.
which has not been used since 2012.
I have a question if no one else does, directed to Steve. Steve, do we have anything in our inventory which would meet their needs from a buoy perspective?
For you, your worship. As a matter of fact, today I just purchased 4 new ones for our beach, for our swim area. And I costed them around 3 different spots, and their price in front of us is actually cheaper than what I just purchased ours for.
Wow.
Now, only because for our Blue Flag Beach, the standard of type of buoy we have to have. So I have these buoys that we have. We are pulling them out now in the wintertime, but they take a lot of damage. So ours have lasted about 5 years, 6 years. So I would guess theirs would get about the same if they're removing them yearly. So they're definitely not the cheapest, but I do not have anything up to their standards for this, unfortunately.
Nope, thank you for that. That's what I wanted to know, is if this is something that we could accommodate already through our inventory, or if this is something that council needs to consider from a costing perspective. Okay, any other comments from council? Councillor Chilcott?
Thank you. So placing these buoys out there would also be beneficial to just the regular boaters out there, would it not? Or is it too far out for them?
No. Are you talking about our buoys for the demarking the swim area, or are you talking about?
Sorry, no, the Coast Guard's buoys that they're putting out there for the shallow areas.
That is to demark a safe passage, I understand, into the harbor. Unless
Yes,
I
no.
misinterpreted.
No, Mr. Mayor, my understanding is that it's helped demarcate the shallow area near the inlet, so it'll provide boaters and operators with basically notify them where the shallows are, so they can loop around in the deeper area and then come into the inlet, and hopefully that will help the auxiliary with their rescue vessel, but it will also help operators and hopefully lessen some of the rescue calls that they tend to get in the Burwell area.
Okay. Councillor Donald?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Does anyone have any idea how much it costs for the Coast Guard to come out to rescue these people?
No. I would say no one has any idea on that, Councillor Donald. But the point I think you're making is yes.
Yeah.
So what's council's wish? Okay, Councillor Chilcott and then Councillor Froze.
I would say based on it being an added safety for our residents and anyone else that's entering the harbor, $2,000 is not that much money to save lives. I'd like to move it.
Councillor Froze, comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Couldn't agree with you more, Susan. I just, I know I've boated most of my life there and it's growing in popularity. Let's be safe out there. I would support this.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Yes, Councillor Donald?
Yes, I would like to say aye. We need to pass this.
Okay, good idea. I too think it's a good idea, though I realize that we don't specifically own or control the harbor, but I think we do have a bit of a moral responsibility for public safety. And as you pointed out, Councillor Chilcott and Councillor Froze, it is a relatively small investment in this line. Before we put a motion forward, any recommendations from staff where to draw the funds from?
Through your worship, seeing that it's an unfinanced or unbudgeted item, it's going to be one of those things where we just expense it and flush it out. We do our year end.
All right. All right. Have you got a motion crafted up for us there, Thomas?
Give me 1 second. I'll pull up what I've got.
Thank you.
Okay. Proposed motion should read that item 12.1.1A be received for information, and that council support the request for 4 approved navigational aids at a cost of $2,000 inclusive of HST.
Okay. Anyone willing to support or, excuse me, move or second that? Councillor Chilcott, you're going to move it. Anyone willing to second? Councillor Froze will second. All in favor?
Councillor Donald,
Yes.
Councillor Froze,
Yes.
Councillor Chilcott,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Weisler,
Yes.
Mayor Ketchabah.
Yes.
Carried.
All right. 12.2, reports to council. We have report TR 0922 by Lauren James, Treasurer, regarding the 22 Q1 variance report. Mr. James.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. Before you is the 2022 Q1 report. Appendix A highlights the operating revenue and expenses for the first quarter, and Appendix B highlights the year-to-date capital expenses on the capital budget. If council has any questions, I'll answer them, but the report's a standard quarterly boiler report that we've been using now for 7 years.
Thank you for that report, Lauren. Any questions for staff? Okay, a question I guess that I would generally ask staff at this time. Lauren, do you have any concerns with the progress in the first quarter to date?
Revenues have been solid. We had a relatively decent winter. Equipment side's been good. And staff has been extremely proactive in keeping construction and CPI as manageable as it can be in this current environment.
All right, thank you for that. Anything else from council members? All right, we have a motion that reads that staff report TR 0922 regarding the 2022 Q1 variance report be received for information. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Donald will move. Deputy Mayor Weiser will second. All in favor?
Counselor Donald,
Yes.
Counselor Froese,
Yes.
Counselor Chilcott,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Weisler,
Yes.
Mayor Ketchba.
Yes.
Carried.
Which brings us to section 13, the bylaws. We have 3 bylaws. Bylaw number 2022-022 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between the Corporation of the Municipality of Bayham and SCG Flow Metrics. Bylaw number 2022-029 being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a development agreement between the municipality and Andrew and Kim Hutink for the construction of a portion of Green Line. And bylaw number Z739-2022 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number Z456 2003 as amended. Is there any questions on the bylaws from anyone? Okay. The motion reads that bylaw number 2022-022, 2022-029, Z739-2022 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Weiser, Councillor Froese will second. All in favor?
Counselor Donald,
Yes.
Counselor Froese,
Yes.
Counselor Chilcott,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Weisler,
Yes.
Mayor Ketchba.
Yes.
Carried.
Moving down to section 15, which would be other business, which means that we will now be going into an in-camera session. I have a motion that reads that council do now rise to enter into an in-camera session at 8:12 p.m. to discuss confidential report regarding sale or disposition of land, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board regarding John Street. Do we have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Donald and Councillor Chilcott will second. All in favor?
Counselor Donald,
Yes.
Counselor Froese,
Yes.
Counselor Chilcott,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Weisler,
Yes.
Mayor Ketchba.
Yes.
Carried.
Okay, please stand by.
All right, everyone stand by while I end the live stream.